Okay. Hello, everyone, again. It's very, very nice to see you all back here. I'm not sure if it's your first time joining our coffee chats or you've been here before. Our coffee chats are a monthly recurring event where we all join together once a month and talk about different topics that are very timely and interesting at the moment. This is our first coffee chat in 2026, so I'm very, very happy to be back. Today we'll be talking about program management in practice, bridging strategy and execution. It's very nice to see many people very interested in this topic as we received so many questions. I will quickly just explain what we will be doing. First of all, we have our today's speaker, Professor Drikus Kriek, who is the program director of program management seminar at CEEMAN and the director of doctoral studies at IEDC Bled School of Management in Slovenia. So we're very, very happy that he's joining us today to talk about program management. We will give the floor to Drikus to speak a little bit about program management in practice. Then we will have some time to ask questions. Many of you have already submitted your questions. We've taken them into account. Drikus will try to talk about them as much as he can. And if you still feel like there's some things that are interesting for you, you're always welcome to ask your questions. So thank you very much, Drikus, for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Nare, and also from my side, welcome to everybody. Although I have been here in Slovenia for nearly 10 years, I managed to expand my vocabulary all to just nearly 5 or 10 words. One of them is, of course, dobrodošli. And for those of you who are familiar in the Slavic part of the world, that means welcome. So I really would like to welcome you also as part of the CEEMAN family that I am been part of and have been part of for quite some time. As Nare mentioned, I have been acting as the director of the program management seminar for quite some time. And perhaps that's necessary also to just say a word about just even the mere existence of the program management seminar, because it also influences the way in which we also focus on or zoom in on some of the things today in this introductory talk. Because the whole notion of program management was actually introduced by Danica Purk. Well, actually, the program management seminar idea was introduced by Danica Purk with a very specific focus of understanding what the critical role management plays in delivering management education programs, leadership development programs, and also formal programs across tertiary institutions. And the whole focus of it was to pinpoint, focus attention on the role that program managers play, and then to also help to raise the level of focus on them, raise the level of professionalism, raise the level also of the profession as such in helping schools to deliver. And this is in that vein that the program management seminar also exists, and that a part of why I'm here also connects with that. Just by way of introducing me beyond merely saying that I am the director of the the director of the program management seminar for CEEMAN, I live in Bled, IEDC Bled School of Management. I'd been the dean here for one term and then decided not to renew my mandate, but to focus on some other things that are more interesting at this stage of my life. And I say this because I would share just a few things about myself in terms of introduction, because I think it also helps to shape some of the bias and some of the angles and some of the perspectives that I may share also in terms of what we would want to talk to today. The IEDC here in Bled in Slovenia is a management school that focuses on executive education, also runs an executive MBA, and so also the doctoral program is focused on executives. And therefore, you will already find that there is an angle or a bias in terms of my understanding of program management that is already associated with that. However, I'm originally from South Africa, and the reason I want to point this out is twofold. One is that I am still and had been at Wits Business School in South Africa, an emerging economy in South Africa, been the director of the Leadership Development Center over there for quite some time, and some of the stuff that I will share with you we also used in that context. And there's also a second and a very important reason why I want to show you this picture, because I know that on the call we also have people joining us from the webinar who's from the Western Cape in South Africa. That's down in the country, and they sometimes have the notion that the part where they come from is more beautiful than others. So I thought it's important for me just to show you a picture from where I come from in the middle of South Africa and why I love being a part of this part, and I hope I can convince my colleagues who are from the Cape one day that this is more beautiful than what they are used to. And then the third thing relating to what I do is that I have spent my life working and focusing on teams and work relating to leading teams. And that I think is also an important part, or also maybe a third angle that also shaped some of the stuff what we do today, is this focus that we know that working in producing management education programs, working as program managers, requires us also to work in teams and to focus in terms of having the needs of different people, different stakeholders in mind, the way in which we do this. So these three things I think are important provisos, also in the way in which I see the role of program management, not only from within the class, but also in a bigger process of designing programs. Perhaps also important to say that if this is a coffee chat or a fireplace chat, this is exactly how I hope this afternoon will be as well. I will just share some of the things that I found helpful, or some of the things that I struggle with, and we as a school and also maybe as a profession face, and how we deal with some of the things, very much aware of the notion what Jacques Cousteau, the French philosopher, said a century or so ago, that an ignorant can teach another ignorant what he himself doesn't know. An ignorant can teach another ignorant that he himself doesn't know. Now, with that, I don't mean that you are ignorant, most definitely not, but I rather want to highlight the fact that I'm very aware that I don't have the answers, and the intention of today is not to give you answers, just share with you some of my thoughts and perhaps open conversation by way of an introduction for us all to collectively focus on what is necessary for us also to be able to, in the challenging times that we live in management education, also to be able to deliver products and focus on the role that program managers play in that. Perhaps just briefly, and you will be all aware of these challenges that we all face in designing programs, in making sure that what we do is relevant. It's important for us to distinguish between what is the clatter that just goes on, the words that's just outside the fads, concerned to what matters, and what matters specifically in terms of how we see what the role is of what management education must deliver. The challenge between the hard part and also the heart part. What is it that we do in terms of knowing the harder skills, but also connecting with people? And what's the role of program managers in helping us to deal with both these angles? How do we deal with global and local? Nare said that, yes, we will be joined by people all over the world. What's the impact of that with people in our classrooms, and what are the challenges associated with that? Also in what program managers must be able to deliver on. What's the focus between me and we? focus difference between what I want to get and where teams fit into what we do, and how can program managers help us to have the right balance also between this in how we deliver on our programs. What is it that we deliver in terms of the outcomes of programs, management education programs, leadership development programs, in making people experts in something, but also providing an experience? What's the balance, and where do we help, and what are the challenges associated by helping programs to be successful if we have to deal with both of these at the same time? What is it in terms of how we know, how we have to grow as individuals? It's not necessary to speak more about the difference in terms of where things are delivered, in terms of face-to-face or in terms of the place where we are. Is it primarily find a balance between help us think at a business school, or is it just to link different things, to connect it, and also what's the difference with human beings and machine things, and what will be the role of that as we go on? Now, these are not opposites that we have to pick the one or the other. It just gives us an indication of how these paradoxes actually help us to find a very difficult way that we have to manage in between to try and get to what it is that we have to deliver, and what the role is that we also want to do to ensure that programs get delivered at the end to the satisfaction of not only our stakeholders, but also in terms of how we deliver them. These challenges are maybe a few, and there are certainly many more, but maybe just to guide the discussion. Because what we do is that within these challenges, traditionally, what we've been doing is we basically used kind of like a way of saying that within the world that we live in, within these challenges, basically what we do and we've been trying to do is to deliver certain things related to addressing this in the way in which the world goes. And now, I mentioned earlier that I'm a leadership professor, and I mean, at a business school, what would the leadership professor be without a matrix? So this is a matrix that we probably just can use in terms of our guiding our discussion somewhere. If you have management and leadership, maybe not all of these are not opposites, but at least they are poles. Simplicity and complexity, what we saw that over time, the focus in terms of this is increasingly, especially in terms of the need for also for help in terms of leadership development, has increasingly become this wider and this expanding part of augmenting and sharing different things to management education as such, but also focus on things relating to the experiences that people have while on a business school, and also the support systems that they have. And if you want to, you can also, of course, then just trigger some of maybe some particular changes or career levels or focus where there are certain turns and certain exits that we also can help to deliver people on. And this is traditionally what has been happening and that we used. And now what basically the decision then is for us to ask about is, what are those things that we then have to use or keep in mind, framework addressing the stuff that help us in developing these sorts of programs, and where does the role of program management fits into that? And perhaps the first part of that is that the first focus of it all starts for us designing or delivering on programs is, what is it that we really want to deliver? What's the scope of it? What's the link of this with the strategy of the organization, or the culture within the organization, with the leadership idea that the organization really wants, or what we as a school would want to deliver to our stakeholders and the people that come to our schools? What is it that we really want to do now? How do we make that strategic connection between what is necessary and also then what we can offer? So the ideal of that would be to have a strategy-aligned leadership framework, both internally to the institution, but definitely also in terms of what we deliver to our client. Then ask ourselves, but what is it that we want to have within our organization. How do we get people there? What are those important assessment tools that we use, and just to make sure that the talent that we actually focus on is actually aligned with what we do. And these parts are, I think, the primarily things that goes kind of like up front, and also within, talk about program management, maybe within the design, or maybe in the level where we think about broader programs and not necessarily only the parts that happen in the classroom only. And then, of course, already mentioned these three main elements: experience, support, and education, which brings us then to three important elements to keep in mind. What is it and how we design the program, how do we implement it, and how we embed that. Now, we will not obviously discuss all of this, because in some cases this is beyond the scope of what we want to focus on today, but there are elements that we have to keep in mind just to help us direct our focus in terms of this. In terms of design, obviously, just basic delivery things. Who do we want there? What are the modules? How are they done? What's the story you want to tell? How is it that it has to fit within the accreditation or articulation of some programs? In terms of support, if you think about coaching, mentoring, in-house support at the job, kind of like support, how do we make those contact hours? How do you decide on the types of it, and who will then also be the deliverer of that? And then also, if there is experience associated with that, we'll come back to that shortly. What is it that we want to have the experience? Where does it happen? Does it happen in real time on the job? Does it happen outside? What's the use of service providers in terms of that then as well? The implementation, the core part of what relates to what we are here today, and focus on it as well here. How do we manage the implementation? What's the role of program management if we have these two-headed parts of program management? On the one part, maybe more the design and the oversight and the delivery part of program management, but also the hardcore implementation part. People within the class doing the support part, helping with the administration, being in contact with the students all the time. How do we manage this in terms of the role that program management play, or program managers play also in future? And that you would then want to embed also through whatever you want to be sure that the program actually delivers, and that there's impact, and that we can focus on what we really want to have. And then in the end, there is chance for review. And this kind of like this framework is what we used, called the STAR, STAR, scope, test, or you can say strategy, test, apply, and review, and help us. And traditionally, this is kind of like a way of looking at what are the minimum stuff that we have to do, and what's the lay of the land. However, if we just go back to this a little bit, and we just kind of like put a little bit of a lens and see, but how has things been developing over time? We can also see that just the way in which programs are structured has changed over time. Where traditionally there was a focus on skills, and we'll come back to the skills part a little bit again, just shortly, when we talk about also what is the role of skills in programs related to where we are now in a new and in a changing world with AI and augmented reality that comes and help us. So then originally quite a lot of focus in terms of management education programs in delivering on skills changed a little bit. It added things related to behavior. And then I think a next wave, next area of focus came to, which you can call experiential. And here I want to be sure that you know that I see this a little bit broader than just experiential learning of Kolb. Obviously, all of Kolb's stuff fit into this as well, but I think you have to think about the experience what people get a little bit broader. I think a lot of the things related to the development of programs and education programs that includes action learning projects, simulations, group work, flipped classroom, maybe even adventure, things that are experiential beyond just what goes on in the classroom, all fits into this wave of how to deliver on programs that was added and added or broadened the scope of education to include the experience and the support part to that. And very much also a part of this that is fit, that in my mind sitting here, is also the focus on cases. Cases was kind of like a connection to the real world, much more closer to how can we experience thinking about what goes on in the real world. And I thought that was kind of like a next wave. Then a lot of more integrative work, I think, a lot of the focus on holistic personal development, growth in terms of what we want to have started to come in. A lot of things related to also to sit in terms of our own skins. What is the importance of authenticity, of values, of virtues, those sorts of things, I think became a little bit more important. However, now, of course, we also add to a new stage that we now all are part of and that we all already including. And I like to call that the augmented kind of like experience. Now, don't see these, I don't see them as just independent waves. I see them kind of like the Russian dolls, the one containing the other, the one just building on top of the other. So the experience just gets bigger. And I think where we are now with the advent of AI and artificial intelligence feeding into our pedagogy, into the way in which we design programs, this is, of course, the name of the game that we are currently here on. Now, having said that, taking you through kind of like a very traditional part, then into this reality that we all sit in, I would very much like to have your views on this assessment as well. But then we get ours. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, of course, you can just go horizontal or vertical as well. I mean, if you just want to work a little bit more management or a little bit more leadership, there are certainly things that can happen in either of these fields as well. But and I think this is the question for us and for program managers as well. Why would people come to a business school anymore? What is it that they would want to come and do? We as management educators, management education institutions, why would people come to a business school? What is it that they want to get when they come to a business school? And of course, what we really want to have to ask ourselves is what lies behind the need, especially if you think in terms of MBAs or executives, people coming back, lifelong learning kind of, what is it that they want to do and why do they would like to find something at a business school, and what is it that they would find at a business school or a management education institution, and what is it that they really want to get there. And also, if you think in terms of what we just said, this is where I come back to the skills part. If you think of your program or an MBA or a master's program, and we say, yes, we live in a world that we have to hope that people would come to be prepared to go into the world and be familiar with being able to deal with AI and the tools that come with AI. And maybe that's really what they want to be after. Where do we teach that then at a business school? I mean, I joked about the people in the Cape, but I'm an alumnus from the Stellenbosch Business School, of whom I see some people here on the call. When I did my MBA 30 years ago, we got taught Excel and Excel spreadsheets as part of operations research or as part of an IT class. But will that be the space in a particular subject? Or now, 30 years later, I'm a leadership professor. Do I then take responsibility to teach or help deliver AI within a leadership class? Or do I expect that that has already happened? Or can we assume that academics in this augmented world that we want to live in, of deliver management education, augmented management education, you want to say, can we assume that academics will be able to be in touch with what happens all the time and the fast-moving, changing world that AI happens? I mean, I was just part of one of the CEEMAN programs, the EdTech seminar, brilliant, by the way, just 2 or 3 weeks ago. And what I found fascinating, many things, but I mean, the professor, Nikos Milanopoulos, who was the professor there, he said, and you may remember that the new program from Claude was just released the Thursday. Now, that very Monday, in the class, he spoke on how he tried out Claude during the weekend. Now, will that be expected from academics to be able to be on top of the fast moving to that degree? Now, okay, granted, he's an IT professor, but I mean, where does it actually get taught? And if we say we want to enable people to work in environments that they are familiar with that, how and what needs to happen in class for that then to be experienced? How will the experience in the classroom change? I mean, I spoke about or mentioned cases, or even action learning projects working towards this big solving problem within organizations or in your own team. I mean, literally, the answers to that is now available in half an hour with someone that just knows how to write the prompts and the codes. Now, of course, that will be the new world where we will live in. But what will be the impact of the experience of participants in management education programs, and how can program managers help in that experience? Because the critical part that will be needed there is that a lot will go away. A lot of the argument, a lot of the challenge, a lot of the difficulties, they may not be there to the same degree. So what then will bring people to a business school? And of course, what will be the role of a program manager in this reality at a business school, online or virtual or face-to-face? What will be the role and how can that then be changed? Now, maybe this would be some of the reasons why in future people will come and perhaps also guide program managers in terms of where the most critical contribution can be. Maybe people will come for personal growth and development. Maybe they will become to be part of a family, networking. I think we also have to question this focus on networking at a business school, because people will not do that over lengths of time. And there are other things where you can network differently today. But being part, belong will certainly be something that will happen. And a critical role where program managers, especially in the connection with students and in class, will be able to help. I think people will come and will help them to be independent producers, people who have a skill set that they be able to move about much quicker as just mapping a traditional career. I think it will be critical for us to be able to help them to facilitate in terms of what is meaningful to them, how to connect to the calling, what is it that maybe even transcendental connections, making sure that what we are busy with as in management education also has a broader space of meaning. I think people will come to find this challenge. It'll be a different kind of challenge. It will not be the challenge of working through night or studying overnight with cases or working late in the evening with cases. I think we will have to find different ways of mapping challenges. I think a lot of it will depend on how people will come and help them in terms of developing their culture, values, virtues, traits, and how it helps them to be able to know what are the things that they facilitate and use their judgment on. And of course, there will be also these talent-based part. Where in a business school will we help and focus with getting certain talent, excellence, expertise delivered as well. And perhaps I would be very keen to see if we cannot add a couple of this here on. However, What then will be, and with this I conclude, what then would be the role of the program manager? I think it is important that we, in designing, delivering project, being in the class, outside the class, mapping and finding connections to the scope or the strategy, that we need to know that we have to map personal journeys or allow personal journeys to be developed as we do that through our courses. Also have to think strategically in terms of how we design the courses, what happens in the classes, and also how we embrace new technologies. Program manager, probably the role to be a decipherer, to see what's happening in the class, what are the dynamics, how to connect that to the professor, and also for program designers to be much more focused on what are the signals that goes on in the world. I think the program manager is ideally positioned also to help to be a transformer, help to use and see the methodologies and the practices that can be to add, to augment, use differently than what we have been doing up to now. Program managers will be an influencer, expert in engaging people, to be the ambassadors of their function. They will have to be linkers, align the academic world with the participant experience, be the eyes and the ears of professor and the institution, and then also have to have a role in quality control and help to deliver a product that is aligned with what the different stakeholders would need. This, I think, by way of introduction, a few things that I think will probably be something that I'm sure you can add to. But what I think focus, maybe zoom in terms of both these parts of program management that I spoke about, the design and the delivery, but also the support, administrative connection, influencing part that happens within a class. With that, any questions? If you would like me to turn back to add your views, you are more than welcome. Nari, this is about 5 minutes over time. Sorry.
No worries. Thank you so much, Drikus. It's always a pleasure to listen to you. Now we can take questions. If anybody has questions, comments, concerns, you're welcome to share with us. Or if you have answers to any of the questions that Drikus proposed.
No, please. And I mean, let's just have this an open conversation. We're all in this together. So rather than even suggesting that I have the answers, let's share and learn from one another. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Then it was a very nice time with you.
Sure. Yes, we have a question from Magdalena.
Hi, I'm Magdalena Kaczkowska-Serafińska from SWPS University, and I was also participating during that training on IT, and I remember very well how Nikos has implemented and taught us how to deal with the newest IT and AI technologies, I would say, and it's also very demanding for all professors. I would say, but I would like to. I don't have any additional question, but I have my coffee as a coffee with management program and all of you, and I would like to give my thoughts to tell my thoughts about that questions that you pointed regarding why would people come to a business school, what will they want to get, and for that, from my perspective, it is about the networking. I fully agree that about networking, because they can get knowledge from different points, from different schools, from different materials. However, that networking and that talent excellence and growing the self-development within business school and with that mentoring and tutoring on in direct connection with our academicians will be very supportive for them. So from my point of view, this is the direction, and also this is the demand for and challenges for all our academicians in business school, because not everyone can be. So this is my free thoughts.
Exactly. No, thank you very much. I remember you also said in that meeting that that the focus for why people will come will relate to challenge. I remember from the that as well. I will get to you, Jennifer, just in a moment, and you, Arnold, if you just give us your thoughts as well. But maybe just the thing relating to networking. Of course, we will have to be much more focused and direct in terms of how we facilitate the networking experience as part of management education programs. But I also think we have to be a whole lot more deliberate with that, because that will be a key thing, because why people will come here, and we will face the opposition with, if networking is why people come, what is it that we then help and facilitate them in building that network, especially in the sense that what is the time available? You know, would we need 180 contact hours for that over 3 years for people to say that we use most of that for network? And the other challenge that I think AI will bring is that a lot of that networking, let's say the deeper relationships, are actually facilitated in the group work where they struggle and work hard together in delivering on something. There is pressure, there is some of that experience associated with it. I remember I mentioned that 30 years ago I was in the MBA class. I mean, but we worked together and stayed together as friends thereafter because of that experience. That built the one level of friendship and connection and network. But there are others that are less intense than, if you take away this, how do you strengthen the opportunity that some of the shorter or less intense experiences is meaningful enough to bring students in the class the experience what they really want to come for, if they want to use an MBA or a management education program as a networking opportunity. And then also, how are we going to make sure that those are then optimal given all of the other things that are available, and how social media expands that networking experience completely beyond the connection part? So these are things that we will have to think and keep in mind as time goes. Jennifer, very nice to see you as well there, all the way from the cold. It's probably still cold there where you are, or not?
Yeah, it's -11 right now. So yes, it is cold. We've got, but only a little bit of snow on the ground, fortunately. Most of it melted recently. Yes. Hi, I'm from obviously the US, from Michigan, and it's 8:30 in the morning, 8:40 in the morning for us. And my colleague is sitting right here with me, Chris.
Hello.
Hi. I just wanted the idea with networking that Magdalena brought up is, it just really dawned on me. Our student group, the professional sales organization, on Tuesday when they met, our discussion was the importance of networking. And we actually had some sales people come in from Stryker, which is a very large pharmaceutical company here in the US that's headquartered in West Michigan. And they came in and gave us their hints on networking and how they did it, and even like how they kept notes and how they maintained their information so that when they saw people again, they could say something personal without forgetting it all and all those things. And it was really useful to our students. And I will say most of our students are here at Grand Valley to get a degree so they can get a good job. I'm not going to lie. But we are moving more towards a lot more experiential learning. We just installed a sim center within the College of Business so students can be more involved with experiential learning. And it's been a big push for us. And I think that's a big thing in management education today, is that hands-on stuff. My students today that I have class later are going to be doing an experiential learning exercise in negotiations. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. So that's, I think what I'm going to say is just, I think today in today's business world and with AI, we're struggling with it like everybody else. Individual professors have AI policies. Some don't. Some say don't use AI at all, which I think is foolish because students are going to use it anyway. Mine is, here's where you can use it. Here's where you can't. And if you use it, tell me. And that seems to be working fairly well with my students. Because there are certain instances where I think AI is actually very helpful for them in developing their brand name, their marketing logo, their product, and things like that. So that's where I use it mostly. And Chris teaches economics, so I don't know how much he uses AI, to be honest.
Hardly.
Hardly at all. But, you know, it's just because mine's more creative in
Okay.
marketing and international business. It goes that way
Yeah.
with things.
Yeah, but just to tag on what you say, Jennifer, I know you use that negotiation activity, but you know, just the additional level of skill that will be required by academics to be able to facilitate that and to be able to get the learning associated with that would be something that's going to be hugely beneficial, but it is going to add a whole new layer on top of what we would have to have and skill sets we need to have as business school academics, on top of the fact that we already have to cope with AI and all of those sorts of things already, independent of some of the other things we have to do.
Yeah,
Arnold,
and my students record their lecture, their negotiations are recorded, and they have to reflect and analyze them as well. And I, of course, have to watch all of them, which is so much fun.
Sure. Arnold.
Drikus and everybody else, good afternoon. Arnold Smit from South Africa. Stellenbosch, sunny and
ugly part of the country.
Yeah, amidst the winelands of the southern tip of Africa and so on. Drikus, my question has got to do with another level of networking, which I have found to be bothering me since I've started working in the business school environment in 2010, and now even experience more severely now that I'm a kind of a mercenary, a person that's being externally contracted to do teaching. I think what you have presented to us presupposes teamwork, networking amongst the core role players in the program design, the program coordination, and the program delivery environment. So for my take, these roles are so isolated sometimes. The program needs a narrative that keeps it together, a core narrative that needs it together. For that core narrative to work and land with the students, you have to have your academics, not just your subject matter experts, but your academics as a team, your program manager in terms of the overall design, as well as your program coordinators on the same page all the time. I would like to know how you kind of crack that nut and make that work, because I've been pleading for that for 15 years. And I never anywhere got a sense that people would like to commit to that level of teamwork in order to go the journey with the students as it is designed to be. And I think there are parts that fall away that kind of leave huge gaps in the learning journey, not just only of the students, but also of those people around it. And by the way, just to complete, the one thing that I think that are kind of messing this up in universities and business schools too, is that you kind of have this kind of artificial split between academics and what's being called PAS staff, which is professional assistance staff, something like that. In other words, your administrative bureaucratic staff and your academic staff. And these gaps, I think, kind of trips us up. And I would like your view on that.
No. You're absolutely right, Arnold. I think a lot of it depends on what is the delivery model that the business school picked to have. If it is people who come regularly or in particular periods or stay together in terms of delivery, that is one way of helping to build that camaraderie or that connection there. But as you know, in our case, fly in, fly out, kind of like business school models make that extremely difficult. And it makes it difficult on a number of levels. Not only, as you rightly say, that people come into from and have to deliver on something that doesn't have necessarily the connection with the course, never mind the module or the narrative of the module, never mind the narrative of the whole program. And that's certainly something that is one of the things that trip this working together kind of like experience, collaborative focus, and trips it up. I do think, however, that if there is a role or a part where the program manager can play into that whole facilitation, that's a very underdeveloped opportunity what we do. And in that case, I mean, you used the word program coordinator. You know, there are also different models that you would know in terms of how program coordinators or program managers fit in. Some basically just administrative and just doing the admin part. Others being physically in the class, or others even being very linked to helping staying part of the quality control that I mentioned there past. Say what, well, that didn't really work. Give that feedback back to the academic in class and to the program director. And then there's also a program manager's part of role that plays an even more critical role, that facilitates as the integrator of all of this back into the program. So there are models at least on how to deliver on it. How to do that, given the nature of academics as such, or academia, that becomes, of course, the most critical thing. I would think that if we focus on that from a program to program basis, and where we link the overall program director or the program designer and link that with the program manager responsible for that, and make sure that that team is strong. That gives you the better opportunity to feed that in terms of quality control systems back into the system. It is something that we struggle with as much as you do, and you've experienced as part of these experiences, most definitely. But that is something that is absolutely critical. In my mind, that link and relationship between those two, that's actually the only connection in how to do that. And I say this on the basis that the model that we use, the IEDC uses here, is that we have a program manager sitting in the class through all the classes. And that gives the opportunity for her, they are all her in this case, female in this case, they have the opportunity to feed that. And they are very, very much focused, very much part of helping to create the narrative, helping to create the what works, what doesn't work, the quality control associated with, but they are fundamentally critical to helping to create the experience that the participants have. And I think those are key roles of what program managers is in helping in that dilemma that you rightly point out.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other question? Comments, maybe?
Yeah, well, no? Please, welcome comments, share your views. There's another hand, Grace.
Yes.
Hello, Grace. All of the EdTech family is here. You're on mute still?
We still cannot hear you.
No.
Oh, sorry.
Drikus, can I ask you to remove the presentation demonstration?
I'm Jianxin. I'm Jianxin. Nice to meet you all. Is it okay now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, good. And I'm still in Spring Festival, but I still remember the important day for the coffee chat. That's what I would like to communicate with you, that the networking of the business school is, I think, somehow it's the key part of the education for the part-time MBA student. That's why I remember today, the date, because coffee chat is something very important to those who joined EdTech. It's not just on-site discussion, but after the seminar, we still have the chance to communicate. So the things is the same to the MBA student or the program manager, that after the training program, there's still platform for them to continue the network. This time I talked to Danica for the suggestion that could we include alumni of our each of our university or member universities for doing something together, for a seminar or marathon or on a specific topic. That's what I would like to share with you. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot. I think it's a very good idea. Don't misunderstand me. Not that I suggest you do, Gracie, that I say that I underestimate the role of networking. It is absolutely critical, and in future will become even more critical, because we will have to help to create that natural belonging, that connection, that part. My question around it only is that I think we have to be very deliberate, like what you mentioned, in doing things, because people will not come for the same period of time that an MBA take just for networking. And that's the thing that we will have to be a little bit more, put it into our pipe and smoke. Magdalena, you again?
Yes, thank you. I would like also to share my reflection on that why students, why entrepreneurs are choosing business school. Just after EdTech, I went to Milan 1 week later to Milan to meet entrepreneurs from small and medium-sized companies in Italy. And they were like 20, 30 students on different levels. And the main aim of them was to develop themselves, also to develop their companies, and also to understand